based upon ultimately how many jobs do you quote to how many jobs do you sell. And if you have a good process, right, a good qualification or even disqualification process, that means that you guys are going to be able to weed out all of the garbage, all of the stuff that doesn't need to be quoted before it even gets to that point. Before you even waste your time having to walk the roof, before it even gets to the point that you have to send it to your estimator and your estimator has to go through everything that he does, right? Be able to get the materials, all that kind of different stuff. Why are we doing that? Especially if we know that they're taking 5 bids, right? And we're one of 5. And the job is going to be awarded based upon price. That's how he's going to award it. I'm looking for the best price. Sharpen your pencil. Those are just the opportunities that suck. So, as sales manager, right, and a sales rep, I sell myself. We're going to go through that today. We're going to be talking about checkbox number 2. So, discover and disqualify. We'll talk about that and we'll be jamming through. So, another 30 seconds here and then we'll get rolling. So, everybody jumping in. Thank you guys. Everything else should be up and rolling. So, yeah.
But as we look at this, right, it's like, man, I missed my goal this month. Let's just say I missed my goal in March. My goal of $83,000, right? $1 million rep, $83,000 on the service side. I missed it. But I had $278,000 in my pipeline. But, right? I missed my goal of 2 million on the capital side. But I have 4.2 million in my pipeline. It doesn't matter, guys. Your pipeline, if it's not vetted and if it's not qualified, it doesn't matter. It's just a bunch of low quality stuff you have out on the streets that's not going to come to fruition at a predictable level for you to give you, like Chad says, to give you the urgency that you need to go get after it and go get your pipeline filled with quality stuff. So we say this all the time. And I'm super proud of one of the reps that's on here today. In our meeting last week, somebody asked him what was the biggest thing that he would what's the biggest tip he would give him as he started out. And this rep said, dude, you got to get the 3 checkpoints memorized and you got to start qualifying your people. And he just rattled them off. You got to figure out if they actually are going to take action against this. You got to figure out if they actually need outside help. And then you got to figure out if they actually see us as the best solution. And if you do that diligently throughout the sales process, you'll be fine. I mean, I was driving to a doctor's appointment. I was about to like explode out of my, the top of my Bronco and just start shouting out to the world. Yes. And he's a newer rep too, but he's on it, guys. And guys, it doesn't matter. We talked to reps that have been in the game for 10 years. If you don't have these 3 things memorized that are on the screen right now, then you're not actively qualifying your prospects up against the core 3 criteria that matter throughout the entire sales journey. You're flinging spaghetti against the wall, and that's no way for you to create successful outcomes for yourself, for your family, for the people that you love the most, for your company, for your prospects, for your community, and everything else. Get this crap memorized. Nobody will ever say you're a part of a cult for memorizing 3 checkpoints. Okay.
So the only
here. But we want you to work. Memorize it. Sorry, go ahead, Jim.
No. The only part I'll say is that if you ask someone who's been inside sales for 10 or 20 years, it's nowhere near as simple as this, right? And that's the part that was always inside my head. I was a good salesman, right? I was, the $5 million salesman that was able to put the work on the board, but it wasn't this simple. Right. So that's the huge part that I see about this. And I love that we created is that checkpoint 1, do they need to act? It's yes or no. Eliminate the maybes, right? Is the problem big enough that they're actually going to do something about it? Right. And then you take it even further going into the 5 fatalities, right? What's going to happen if they don't act? It's going to die because of timing. It's going to die in the vine. Right. Now, do they actually need new or outside help? This is where competition comes in. Right? Are they just going to use the contractor that they've used for 5 other years because you haven't been able to wow them with something completely new? Or are they so upset with the contractor that they have right now? They're like, you know what? We're never going to use him again. And so many sales reps miss these questions and miss this checkpoint to where are they working with someone else? I don't know. I think so. Or I get to the point of they're working with someone else. Yes, they are. Okay, who? Going deep and probing into this is going to allow you, because I can tell you, me personally, if I'm selling against North American, or if I'm selling against Baker, or if I'm selling against Cinemark, they're all different approaches because they all have different companies, right? It's knowing your competition as well. Know your strengths. So asking these questions is going to get you deeper into it. And then the worst one of all is that they do it themselves, right? You deliver a proposal for fasteners and sealants, and they literally take your proposal. They don't talk to you, but yet their problem is gone. Those are the types of individuals that you guys got to be careful on, because you're spending your time, your energy, right, and the company's money to be able to ultimately sell something. So you guys can get a commission and you guys can grow all the stuff. So if we're not using our time correctly or wisely, and we're not disqualifying, you guys are going to be spending a lot of time, much like David said, building that book of business, building that pipeline, right? Multi-million dollars. What'd you sell this week? Nothing, right? What'd you sell this month? Not enough. And that all comes back to these 3 check boxes. And do they check the check boxes? So let's get rolling.
Now, just real quick, guys, the on checkpoint 1. So what our data is, because we have software that's attached to all this, and we can analyze data better than, I think probably pretty much anybody, maybe not, but at least we can analyze data and get clear on this. Guys, 32% of your deals, I was having a conversation about this yesterday, and I take it for granted. So I'm gonna reinforce this to you guys. 32% of the deals that you guys are losing, you're losing because of timing, and they're not crossing checkpoint 1.
So
Okay, you're upwards of, sorry, you're at 29% on checkpoint 2. So 70% of your deals that you're losing because of these first 2 checkpoints. While you're trying to compete, while you're trying to be with your logo, while you're trying to get yourself to look like the best roofer out there, they're not even using a new roofer. They're not doing anything at all, or they're just using the resources that they already have at their disposal. So you guys are focused so much on trying to make sure that you're positioning your company to be the best one out there when you've already lost 70% of your opportunities. 70% of the opportunities that you've lost are already gone because of these first 2 checkpoints weren't crossed. So I just want to be clear on that, guys. You got to change your lens. This is not about you having the best price. It's not about you having the best solution. It's about you guys figuring out if people really need to take action. It's about you figuring out if they really need outside help or not. And through the process of helping them figure that out, or in the process of you trying to figure that out, you bubble it up, and now they're more aware that they have to take action. They're more aware that they need outside help, and they don't make the wrong decision like so many buyers do. I will shut up now. Please take us away, Chadwick.
No, you're good. You're good. This is for the owners that are watching this. There was an email that came earlier today. I didn't even tell you about this, David. So there's an email that came earlier today, and it was from a company that manages Google Ads and pay-per-click and all that stuff. And they asked a question that I almost feel they thought was rhetorical, that we weren't going to answer. They were like, "Can you please define the percentage of leads that turn into inspections, and the amount of inspections that turn into sales?" And like, it wasn't, I mean, it literally took me 60 seconds. And I had that information because I understand what's happening in my book of business. I understand what's happening in my pipeline, right? So when you go deeper into ultimately your specific sales strategy, right, those are the numbers that you guys should know. And this is a huge part of this, David. But that was a win, right, for the company that I was working for, that they wanted to understand the ROI of social media marketing, and it's like, boom, here you go. So cool.
Yeah.
Welcome, y'all. This is No Reps Left Behind. Ultimately, my name is Chad Westbrook. I am the founder of Sales Alignment. You guys probably know the service side, which is why you're here. No Reps Left Behind is in place because I'm here to be able to raise the floor for the commercial roofing industry. My background is commercial roofing, less of a couple years that was in construction, CAD layout. This is where I've been. My world is service. So if you look at some of the biggest initiatives that I've been behind for some of the largest companies in America, I've been behind some of the largest preventative maintenance side. And I can tell you, I've turned companies that were one location in a single territory into multi-million dollar accounts that are still continuing to be able to grow with the companies that I was with. And it's not by accident, right? And I didn't walk into that one building and turn it into a 450 property preventative maintenance agreement because I was a good salesman. I understood what they need. I understood what they wanted. And I asked the right questions to be able to create a solution that specifically solved the problem that they had, or sometimes it was even the goal that they were trying to get. As companies are buying new buildings, right? They need to wrap their hands around them and understand, what's going on with those assets. And that's why I'm here. That's why I'm here to be able to share my secrets with you guys. And ultimately, throughout the last 20 years, what I've created, and the partnership with David puts that into the strategy that you're going to get through no reps. So I appreciate you guys joining.
Hey guys, David Bonney. I've been a sales and revenue leader for 17 years. I've worked for companies that have been funded by the largest VC firms in the world, like Goldman Sachs, Bain Capital, SVB, and these companies basically give other companies 30 to 50 million dollars, and they, to go grow. And then that puts an immense amount of pressure on those companies to go double their growth year over year. So being in those high pressure environments, that created the need for me to optimize sales production beyond what was realistic and do so in a way that scaled over the long term. It couldn't just be a one-hit wonder. So that's what I've been focused on for the vast majority of my career. That is why I'm grayer than I really should be. I'm only 28 years old, guys, and it's just, it's not looking good over here. Just kidding.
It looks good.
Not. Oh, thanks, buddy. Thanks. My wife
Got
calls
you.
me her fox, Foxy. Yeah. No, she doesn't. I wish she would though. But the point is, guys, is I've been doing this and I've been in these stressful environments, and the stuff that I learned in those environments, I want to give to you. Chad and I want to give them to you so you guys don't have to go through this. So you guys don't have to go through the hard times and feel like you're that solo player like we often feel in sales. Sales is a team sport. We're a part of your team. We want to be here to support you and give you all of the shortcuts, all of the things that we figured out from the mistakes that we've made so you guys can shortcut yourselves to success. And that's why I've written 3 books at this point. That's why I'm trying to do everything I can to get you this stuff. And like Chad said, we're trying to distill it down to its simplest principles. Just because it's simple doesn't mean it doesn't work, guys. The only way to make it work is to make it simple. That's the key. If it's too hard, you're not going to be able to do it. So we spent so much time, literally over 30 years, the both of us, figuring this stuff out, trying to drive it down to the core principles, the 20% that's going to get you 80% of the results and allow you guys to reach levels of success that you never had before. That's why we're here. That's what we're doing. Please take copious notes and ask all the questions you can. We're here for you.
Oh my goodness. I don't take notes. It's the difference on my side. I process. I'm an audible guy, man.
All in
I'm
here, dog.
audible. Taking
You know what I
notes.
mean?
Hands off to you. Number one, you probably have a good enough handwriting that you can read it. You wouldn't be able to read mine. We're way off topic. So here's what I'm going to challenge. There's a question I asked last week or 2 weeks ago or at some point, and I liked it. So I'm going to ask it again. You guys understand what your sales are, right? Or what your projected sales are going to be. I don't care, whatever it is, right? What was your sales inside 2023? Or what are your projected sales inside 2024? Now, here's the challenge I'm going to give you guys. I want you to double it next year. Double it. Most reps would be lost on how to answer that question. And if you're not, you're part of the 1%, right? So it's almost an impossible task is to be able to say, I'm going to double my revenue, because I can assume you guys worked as hard as you possibly could to be able to get as much revenue sold as you could, right? To be able to make yourself as much money as you can. So it's not the point of like, okay, I'm going to work twice as hard. It's not the point that I'm going to work twice as long, right? To be able to double that. The idea is that we can learn from our mistakes. And the idea is that we become more efficient with what we're doing and really come back into what we're talking about today, which is the perfect buyer's journey, right? It's the whole process. It's pulling everything together so we can discover and disqualify. And just like we said before we started this off and really kicked it off, the idea behind this is harness your time. Spend your time with the people who actually have a problem big enough that they need to do something about it. Not just, yeah, sure, you can take a look at the roof. Yeah, no problem. Not saying don't do those, right? Not saying there's not an opportunity to be cultivated there. But when you choose where you want to spend your time, make sure that they actually have a problem, that they're going to do something, or a goal that they need to be able to hit. What we're going to be talking about today is, do they actually need new and outside help? That's the second part to this, is that you want people that are looking for a new way of doing something. Because if they don't need a new way of doing something, why are they going to choose you? If they fix it themselves 12 other times and you come in and try giving them a proposal for $5,000, what's the chance that they're going to do it themselves? Let alone what is their capability to be able to fix it themselves? A lot of really, really important questions we're going to be going through. And then finally, when you do get to the table with your proposal, how do you position yourself as an expert in the room? How do you position yourself as just not another roofer or just not another commodity that's going to get commoditized and you're going to lose the job because someone was cheaper, or you're going to lose the job because someone can get out there faster, or you're going to lose the job because someone's able to obtain the materials faster, or whatever it is. Position yourself as an expert. Every problem or goal that you guys come into is a unique problem. Okay, it's a unique problem. Because it's your customer's problem. You guys are the expert who has to connect those pieces and show them we have solved this. We have solved this many times before. And that's the third checkbox, right? Is really crafting ourselves as having the best solution. It's not about maybe. It's about yes or no. Does this fit to what you guys do? And can you guys execute this at the highest possible level? When I talk on the operational side, sales makes a promise and operations delivers on that promise, right? It's your guys' job to be able to figure out what that expectation is inside that sale. So again, happy customers, drive it home and continue to be able to grow the business. So checkpoint 1, do they need to act? Checkpoint 2, do they actually need new and outside help? And then checkpoint 3 inside there, do we have the best solution, which is what we're going to get into next week. All of this is called the 4D process, okay? 4D sales process. And the 4Ds, number 1 is discovery, right? We're not going in and ultimately just word vomiting who I am, how long I've been inside business, how great my company is, how many trucks we have. Nobody cares. They care about their problem. That's the first part of being that trusted advisor, is getting out there and talking to them about their problem. David said it best: as you sit inside a doctor's office, does the doctor come in and tell you where they went to school, how long they've been practicing, or how many clients they've seen that day? No. What's going on? Talk to me about what's going on. We go through that discovery phase of figuring out what is your customer's perception of reality. Because you don't know what you're fixing if you don't know what your customer is seeing or how it affects with them. Number 2 is what we're going to be going through today, which is diagnosis. Right? Now that we understand what our client sees, now we can really start putting together the pieces to be able to figure out, okay, how are we going to fix this? Now, the next D is ultimately demonstration. Like I said, next week, as we dive into that, to be able to position yourself as the best possible solution, the number 1 expert inside the room who knows how to solve the problem and has a proven history of solving the problem. Now, all 3 of these Ds are here for one reason: a decision, okay? A decision, because the first thing that has to happen is your client has to commit to making a decision. Because if the client doesn't make a decision, it dies on the vine. It means that all of the work that you guys put in is worthless. And not only worthless to you, it's worthless to every other contractor who's bidding on this. Your client's problem has to be big enough for them to make a decision. And they also have to be confident. They have to be clear and confident that they're making the right decision. Because as soon as you get confusion, as soon as your client stops understanding the picture that we're painting for what the reality may look like, and we blur it with all types of punctures and scuppers and coping and all this different roofing jargon, right? 60 mil TPO fully adhered with a tapered system. That's when your client gets confused. That's when your client delays, or that's when your client makes decisions that are based upon what they can read and what they can comprehend. And we'll be going through that. But there's a huge part: clarity and confidence comes from all of these. Let's do good discovery, diagnose truly what's happening, right? Their perception of reality. And then finally, get a demonstration in there that makes you one of a kind, that nobody can compare to. All of this is to be able to help drive that decision and drive a confident decision within your customer. That way it's coming to you. Okay. You want to take us through the side, David?
Yeah, actually, go back real quick before we get into that, guys. So many salespeople are really just focused on demonstration. They do a little bit of discovery, so maybe 1.5 of these 4, but they just focus in on demonstration. Well, what happens, guys, when we don't do good discovery, we don't figure out the timing side of it, and that's why they don't pass that first checkpoint. Like Chad said, we lose them to the timing fatality. When we don't do good diagnosis, guys, most of the time you guys aren't doing this at all. When we don't do good diagnosis, we don't get them past the second checkpoint, and we lose them to the competition or price fatality. Okay, so these are the two core objections that you guys are losing people to when we don't do this. But when you can start diagnosing effectively, you're going to separate yourself from the competition and you're going to be selling on value, not on price. Okay, so that's the key thing that we're doing here. Remember, this whole method is based on the 5 fatalities, like Chad said, the 5 reasons why your deals die, and proactively eliminating those. Because as soon as you're trying to overcome that objection, it's already too late, guys. Sorry to spoil it for you. But all those sales influencers out there that teach you how to overcome objections, they should be teaching you how to make sure the objection never surfaces. Because as soon as the objection does surface and you try to convince them otherwise, you're just trying to get them to do what you want them to do and not what they think they need to do, which is selfish. They see you that way as a salesperson that reeks of commission dollars, and you've lost all of your influence as a trusted advisor. Okay. So, diagnosis. We want to determine the potential problem they're facing that aligns with what your company does well. Your company exists in the market for a reason. There was a gap. Okay. There was a gap in the market that wasn't being, or a need that wasn't being met. That's why your company was started. And that's why it got a foothold and it started growing. Okay. I don't care what the size is. You need to understand what that is, because then once you understand what that is, then you need to go into your opportunities, and you need to understand that there's a bigger problem that your prospect is facing that they're not currently aware of, that aligns to the secret sauce of your company and the things that you do really, really well. And you need to make sure that you're surfacing that problem, just like a doctor, just like Chad said. Okay, I've gone through my discovery here. Let's go through and diagnose what the issue is. You can go to the next one. What is the actual problem that you're dealing with? You don't know. You're an incompetent prospect. You're not a great roofer. You're not a roofer at all. You don't know what the hell is going on. I've done my discovery. Now I'm going to go through and do my diagnosis. This is typically the bigger problem that I see with buildings like yours that you're not aware of. And that now sets me up for the demonstration. That now sets me up to demonstrate what my company does and what they do well, because now I've connected it to the bigger problem that they're dealing with. But when you don't do that, guys, you're just recommending pills. You're just recommending health, a plan, a treatment plan to the patient without telling him what the hell is wrong. What the bigger thing is, it's not about the headache. It's not about these symptomatic things. What's the deeper issue? What's the bigger issue that they need to be aware of? That's what we're doing on diagnosis. And when we go through and run good discovery, when we diagnose what the actual problem is and we demonstrate how we can solve it better than everybody else, then it's very easy for us to actually drive them to a decision. A clear decision, guys, a heck yes or a no. And that's where we get into the confirmation close, where we teach you guys how to take your prospects through very clear 5-question process at the end. Is this still a high priority for you? Is this still an urgent priority for you to solve? If it still is a yes, great. Now they pass that checkpoint, we can continue to move on. Do you still believe that you don't have the resources to solve this on your own, either with your existing roofer or your existing team? Okay, great. If so, are we still aligned on the problems, the bigger problems that need to be solved? And are you clear on how we're going to solve them? Question 2, are we still aligned on the expected outcomes? And is the ROI going to be sufficient? And then lastly, we just flat out ask them, guys, are we the right solution for you? Yes or no? And we'll take you through, when we go through the confirmation close here in a couple of sessions, how to go through the various answers. But everything that we're teaching you is going to line you up to have the cleanest close for a clear yes or a clear no. No maybes. Maybes kill your deals. Yes or no. I don't care about no's. Get out of my way then. Go use whoever you think is going to help you. I need to go find other people that I can help. And we move on.
I hope this is clear to you guys, because this is ultimately, we have to be able to, again, understand our client's perception of reality. But at that same point, as a trusted advisor, we're not trying to sell them a proposal. We're trying to help them get to either A, what it looks like when their problem is solved, or B, what it looks like when their goal is reached. So this is about understanding truly, right? Is this still a high priority? There's been many, many times where I've went in, I found an opportunity. It is top of line. This guy is doing it. And then 30 days later, guess what? HVAC broke. Now he's got to replace a $15,000 HVAC unit. This went to the top of the line. Now roofing is back. A lot of times we get to the point to where we have a proposal and we just email it. Right? And we email it over thinking that, like, okay, yeah, no, we're good. I've talked to this guy. Last time I talked to him, he was solid. Doing the confirmation close allows you to be able to get that instant alignment at the same time that they get the solution. So we went through this. David, you did an awesome job on it, right? Priority level. Is this still high? That's checkpoint one. Do they actually need to act? That's what you're asking. Is this still a super high priority for you guys? Checkpoint two, do they actually need new and outside help? We're confirming the ability in these last three questions, guys. This is so important. You don't have to ask for the sale. What you need to ask for is alignment. Do we have alignment on ultimately what the problems are, right? And how we're going to specifically solve them. Do you understand how we're unique inside this situation? Because if not, you're going to get commoditized. Is everyone still aligned to the expected outcomes? Which means if we solve this, are the outcomes still enough that it makes sense to spend money on this? No, we actually made the choice that we might be selling the building. It's no longer, right? It's not the same or wherever it is. We're repurposing it. A million different things can happen. Ask the question. And then finally, are we the right solution to solve the problems and help them get to where they want to be? Right? This isn't about the cost. This isn't about the dollar. This is about us helping them solve the problem that we've already went through and confirmed. This is big enough that you have to do something about it. Now the choice is finding the best person that aligns to exactly what you guys do. So again, much like we said as we close up the last one, the buyer's action plan is your guys' roadmap. You guys don't have to think about all the questions or how to be able to get to these three checkpoints. The idea is that you're creating a conversation that allows you to be able to help bring your customer clarity and confidence. Those are the two things, clarity and confidence. Clarity of what the real issue is. There has been way too many times where I've been in situations where the customer goes, yep, I got some stained ceiling tiles up there. I noticed it last time it rained. And the one thing that I need to ask, okay, who cares? What does stained ceiling tile mean? I can tell you it means a completely different world in a Taco Bell versus a Chick-fil-A. Questions why? Right? Maybe it's the food side, maybe it's the curb appeal side, maybe it's a possible slip ball hazard, maybe it's over something that's important. So we'll help you, right? And this is a guide for you guys to be able to create that conversation. So that whole buyer's action plan. If you guys don't have the buyer's action plan, all you got to do is reach out to David and I. We will get it to you guys so you guys have all of the questions that need to be asked. So the perfect buyer journey, checkpoint one, do they need to act? The reason we keep repeating this, because much like David said, write it down, guys. Do whatever you have to do because you should be reviewing every one of your opportunities that you have. So go into your book of business right now, pull up opportunities and ask yourself, is the problem big enough that they have to do something about it? If you answer it with a maybe or a no, do one of two things. Get back in there and get that maybe or no from that customer because it should not be in your book of business. Or number two, just get it out of the book of business, right? Stop wasting your time following up with it. Get with the people that truly have a problem big enough to act. So do our clients need to act, right? So first off, it's just a recap for what we did last week. Do they know why they scheduled the meeting? And it sounds something like when people sit down with me, they typically have a problem or a goal. Which one is it for you? Number two, decision makers. Are the decision makers present? We talked about responsibility versus authority. That's one individual who's responsible for getting all the proposals. And then who's got the authority to sign on the dotted line? Who has the ability to be able to create the purchase order? Sometimes there's a board or a strata or maybe a vice president if it goes over a certain dollar amount that has to sign off on it. That means there's additional people in the sales process than the individual you're talking to. That's a huge, huge gap that we have within a typical sales process is that we might think our guy is the guy, but if he's not the one that's literally signing off on that purchase order or signing the piece of paper, he's not the only guy in the process. Make sure that you know who the decision makers are. Current reality, have they tried to solve this in the past and failed? You got to figure out what they've tried. Just because top of mind and all of a sudden you guys are like, yeah, oh no, I totally get this. I get metal roofs. We're going to replace all the fasteners. Well, if you don't ask, we've already replaced all the fasteners. That didn't fix it. Or whatever the situation might be, find out what they did and find out why it didn't work. Because someone had convinced them to be able to buy something, right? This is more pain. This is them having to do something again and again. Part of a trusted advisor is not having to do something again and again, choosing the right solution for the right outcome. So figure out what the current reality is. And then finally, what's the worst possible outcome if they don't solve it? And even worse, what if they don't solve it right the first time and they got to come back and do it again? They could already be in that reality. It's your guys' job to be able to create that clarity and confidence that you guys not only are going to be able to solve the problem, but you're going to make sure that they don't have to come back to this problem again. That's priority and urgency. And at the end of this, we should be able to answer a question on a scale of 1 through 10. Do they truly need to do something about this? 10, yes, absolutely. This is the number one thing on my priority list. I need to get this fixed now. 4, yeah, I don't know. It leaks sometimes when it rains. I send a guy out there. It dries up in a couple days, so normally I don't do anything about it. Figure out where it is. Figure out where that priority list is, because that's the first thing that's going to tell you how urgent or how quickly your customer is going to move. Again, leak inside a lumber yard is going to be completely different than a leak inside a hospital. So understand the reality is going to be a huge, huge part to this. David, anything you want to add to this, sir?
So guys, we call these playbooks. These get you in position to score. These are not scripts. These do not score for you, but you have got to run the play, right? March Madness Championship was just last night. I used to play basketball. I used to play college basketball. I played in that tournament. But I use a basketball analogy. We run a play. I'm supposed to come off a screen. When I come off that screen, I need to read it. I need to read where my defender goes so I can get open and I can shoot. If I don't ever run towards and off the screen, I should not be asking, how come I'm not open, guys? When you guys aren't asking these questions, you can't sit there and ask, well, why didn't this convert? Ask the questions, dig deeper, probe on the answers that they're giving you, guys. This is not a script, but you need to be executing these 4 objectives during the discovery process. If not, you're leaving your deals vulnerable because you have not discovered the most important checkpoint is, do they need to take action? Which again, by data tells us this is where you're going to lose the majority of your opportunities.
And I'm going to go a little bit emotional here. And it has to do with I know. It has to do with my personality, right? So my personality is an advocate. A lot of times I try to protect individuals, or there's certain times where I might see the worst reality in my head, but I don't ask the question. I don't ask the question because you know what? We both know it. David knows what's going to happen, right? We both see what's on the floor right there, and all of a sudden he has a roof leak. It's going to destroy his entire working area. He knows that's going to happen. Well, guess what? I'm not doing him any type of service, right? I'm doing him a disservice if we're not truly talking about what happens if he doesn't choose the right contractor. Because as soon as something goes south and that thing does happen that we both knew was going to happen, right? It's all hearsay, right? We didn't talk about it. We didn't go there. I have to ask the questions. And that's something that I have to force myself to do, right? It's only awkward if I make it awkward. Because sometimes when you say, are you a decision makers present? That's a hard question, right? Are you the one, David, that makes the decisions here? It's an awkward question. But what we're able to do is be able to give you guys the path, right? Much like David said, the playbook, to be able to say, David, are you responsible for getting this fixed yourself?
Right.
Yeah. And then and then you got to sign off on it, and then you got to manage the contractor who does it. Right? I'm not asking them all of this stuff, right? We're leading this, right? No. I'm not the right person. No. I got to get this to my boss. My boss will then approve it. Oh, okay. Do you want to bring your boss in this just to make sure that we're all on the same page and we kind of get this taken care of? Right? One time, do this right. Now all of a sudden, I know there's a second player in this. So we can make this, right? We can make this script flow. We can make this playbook work for you guys. And it also allows you to be able to have a conversation. That's the biggest part about this. These are not questions where you go in and say, do you know why you scheduled the meeting with me today? Right? Go in and we create a conversation about this. A huge, huge part that you guys can have a conversation that at the end of it, your customer has clarity and confidence that, yeah, their problem is big enough that they need to do something about it. And guess what? We know that we need to get someone else. You want to start us off on this, David?
Yep. All right, guys. So as we dive in to figure out if they need help, the common objections that you hear at the end is, yeah, Dave, we're going to hold off on this, or yeah, we don't have the budget for this, or we're going to stay with our current vendor, or they just flat out lie and they just plan on doing it themselves without telling you, and they give whatever excuse they feel like they need to. But these are the objections that you hear at the end. When by the time you're getting them, guys, there's no magic one-liners. They're not out there. Like you would have seen them on TikTok by now. I don't have TikTok, but if you do, you would have seen them on TikTok by now. They don't exist because you have to proactively overcome this stuff. So how do you proactively overcome it? Well, you got to realize that there's something insidious going on, like we talked about. Okay. The other vendors, are they currently using any other vendors or contractors to solve these types of problems? This isn't the first time they've run into this issue. Who else are they using? How are they typically solving this stuff? You have to be able to confront that, but you have to do it in a way that makes sense. Okay. So we figured out the worst thing that's going to happen. Now we need to get aligned with them on the problems that are actually causing this. And this is what we talked about before. So typically what we see is here's the bigger problem that you're dealing with. Now, this isn't the inspection. We haven't done all that yet, but you know, typically here are the problems that you're going to run into. We'll get up here, we'll do our inspection, we'll figure this out a little bit more, and we'll go more into detail, but get aligned with them on that problem diagnosis. Get aligned with them. Now that you do feel the pain and you want to avoid this, here's the problem that you have to focus on solving. And when that problem is the problem that you guys are the best in the world or the best in your area at solving, you've now put yourself in position to being the critical cog to solve the problems causing them pain and keeping them from outcomes. Buyer's intent, like we talked about a couple sessions ago. So this is such a big deal. Okay. So what are the bigger problems that are needing to be solved? Not what they think is going on, guys, not the surface level stuff. What's the bigger problem? And how to, again, does that align to your company's special sauce? Think about this as you're sowing seeds. You're sowing seeds during the diagnosis process that you're going to allow to bloom and sprout up during the demonstration process. But you're not focused on you. You're just telling them about their problems. You know in the background that it's your secret sauce and that that's what you guys are great at. You don't need to worry about talking about you right now. You don't matter. Your company doesn't matter. The roof doesn't even matter. Their problems matter. Their pain matters. The goals, the outcomes that they want to get to matters. And that's the only part that you've centralized your conversation on. So now once we understand what the bigger problem is, now we need to understand what are the expected outcomes. Okay. What are the expected outcomes? If they continue not to be able to solve this problem, what business disruptions will occur? What are the ripple effects of those disruptions? What's the cost of those disruptions? And that's where we want to try to get measurable. Damaged product. How much product? What does that typically look like? Or what would you anticipate that looking like? This is where you can get to a quantifiable amount, guys, on the cost. Their roof in this issue is going to cost them either way. It's going to cost them to fix it, or it's going to cost them if they don't fix it. We all know if they fix it the right way, it's going to cost less. They don't know that. We have to take them through the process and lead them to that understanding. Go ahead, Jim.
No, so I was going to give some real world examples on a couple of these. So I'm going to back up just a little bit, right? So what's the bigger problem that needs to be solved? Most of the time, someone's going to tell you the roof is leaking. That's what needs to be solved. It's the ceiling tile that needs to be, that shows that it's wet. Who cares? Right? Like it's a stained ceiling tile. Is it truly a big deal? And what happens is you start going deeper, right? So David calls it probing, right? And we just keep going deeper into the situation. Okay. So why does it matter if the ceiling tile's wet? Well, it's going to collapse. Okay, if the ceiling tile collapse, what does that mean? Well, I might have someone shopping in the store, right? And you're working through the stuff, and you're not being, I'm not going to say you're being dumb about the situation. You're being inquisitive, right? Talk me through what's going to happen. Talk me through what I'm helping prevent or what the outcome is for me, right? Because ultimately, I want to be able to keep your customers safe, right? I think about a Walmart. When Walmart has a roof leak, they have the trash cans that are collecting water, and then they have the whole thing caution taped off. Think about it on a business side. No one can walk through the bread aisle, right? Like that's a big issue if the bread aisle is closed, because if they can't get bread, where do you think they're going? The next store, right? So that means Walmart's losing the opportunity to be able to sell that product. That ultimately and instantly makes it measurable. But trust me, your customer will know this. You don't have to answer these questions. What you need to do is you need to be able to ask these questions. What's the bigger problem that needs to be solved, right? So we go through the three things. Typically, it's people, it's product, or it's safety, right? It's efficiency. People aren't able to be able to work as efficient as they need to. It's product, right? I'm going to go back inside this to talk about the expected outcome of it. So when we talk about,
if I could on that chat, it's also about guys like, hey, typically what happens is somebody will come out and they might fix this one area, but they don't do a more thorough inspection to understand where else the water's potentially getting in. So I know you had an issue on this before and you think it got fixed, but really now what's happening is it's that the other repair is probably still in place. The bigger issue is that they didn't do a more thorough inspection or whatever the thing is, right? Like that when we're talking about those problems, what is that bigger problem that you know your company is going to go through and solve for them because you have a more thorough process or you have better technology or whatever the thing is. Again, that's that special sauce side of things. So sorry, I just wanted to drop that in.
Oh, awesome. So now we get back to the measurable side. And I'll be honest, this is one of the it's not more difficult, but you got to ask the right questions to be able to get here. So I'll give you a real world scenario that'll put it in perspective to you guys. I was somewhere in Kentucky. I don't remember. It was a distribution factory, a manufacturing facility. Sorry. So I was walking in and they were showing us where the leaks were coming from. It was skylights. I remember seeing the skylights, and the only thing I can see these massive rolls of cardboard. So I asked him. I said, "What do you guys do here? Like, can I ask him what do you make?" And he goes, "Oh, we make the fry containers for Wendy's and other things like that." I was like, "Oh, is this the cardboard that you use for them?" It's like, "Yeah." Starts out as this roll, and then we manufacture it and process it and all this kind of different stuff. And I was like, "Okay, what does one of these costs?" And he was like $20,000 a roll. I was like, "So you're telling me the skylight that's directly underneath this, that if that gets wet, it's potentially destroying a $20,000 roll of cardboard?" He's like, "Essentially, yes." He's like, "We're moving them out of the way, right? When we know that we have rain or we have something in there, we just don't keep anything under it." And it was very nonchalant. It was very just like, that's just what he did, right? Like that was just part of his day, is to be able to not put cardboard underneath the skylight. That instantly gave me my measurable that every time it rains, he's potentially, and these things were stacked three high. Now, is there enough water that's going to come in that's going to get through three massive stacks? I don't know. Maybe skylight gets busted out, right? If the leaks are enough, wherever it is. But that's the worst case scenario. You got $60,000 sitting underneath that skylight, and we're talking about $750 to be able to put some coating on the side of this metal roof. It just doesn't. The measurable's there. $750 for $60,000, or even 20,000 if it gets on the top one, right? So having those conversations, and again, I use the inquisitive mindset. Just want to find out, what do you guys do here? This is pretty awesome. What do you guys use this area for, right? What do you guys do with this cardboard? I'm just learning about businesses, and like it's fun. But I'm asking questions for a reason. My questions are specifically tailored to be able to say, we know just one leak, right? One massive rain overnight can destroy up to $20,000 worth of those cardboard rolls you have. I got my measurable, right? Figure it out. Hotel room. What does this room typically go for? Right? What happens if there's a roof leak and they're at 100% occupancy and they can't rent that room? That's telling you where it is, because someone's going somewhere else. And that's just not a one-time thing. All of a sudden they leave the Marriott, they go to a Hilton, and all of a sudden they like Hilton better. They lost that customer forever. Right. And I'm going worst case scenario. That's what we're talking about. If you're not able to be able to rent this room, it means that they're going to go next door. They might like the experience better each time. Now they lost a customer long term. So figure out what that measurable is and you'll get better. But the one thing that I'll tell you is be inquisitive. Ask about the business. Ask about what's going on. Right? What's at stake? What's the negative repercussions or recurring impact? Right? That's enough for them to want to be able to solve it, not have some half-ass solution that they're going to go up there. I always use the joke, right? You can fix it with bubble gum, duct tape, or you can heat weld a TPO patch. Sadly enough, guys, all three of those are going to stop the leak. Bubble gum maybe for a day, duct tape maybe for a month, TPO patch better be longer than the roof system that's up there. So what's at stake? Can you go a cheaper route? Sure. I'm going to tell you, there's always a guy in the back of a pickup truck who's cheaper than me. If that's the route you want to go, boom, that's the qualification, right? Or qualification and disqualification of this. Figure out what's at stake and figure out if they're going to make decisions based upon wanting the right job done, or are they just going to get it done for the right price, right? And those are the variables that are going to be able to tell you, do they actually need new and outside help, or are they just looking for another bid so they can submit it over to the corporate office? You want to take us through typical budget, Dave?
And then just one quick thing, when Chad was, one thing that you guys can do on that is turn your assessments into questions. Just a really easy way to do it. So, just the example that Chad was given. Oh, and Chad, do you guys subscribe to that theory? As soon as you let somebody go over and stay with the competition, you potentially lost them forever. Just asking them if they subscribe to it, right? Remember, if they're staying at a hotel, if they have 100% occupancy, if they can't stay there, if they go to the competition, just frame it up in do you guys subscribe to that thing? This theory. You don't have to be, you don't want to fear monger and tell them, oh yeah, if you lose them, they're going to go somewhere else and you're never going to get them again, right? Chad always says that. Just stay away from fear, guys. You can choose that little trick. Just frame it as a question to them about, this is a broader theory. Is this something? So as you guys are focused on your verticals, hotels, storage units, all that stuff, just get used to those questions. Start crafting those on your off time so you can use them. So now we're looking at a problem. Small problems require simple solutions at a low price. Okay. Now we framed a bigger problem. The bigger problem should decrease their confidence in using their existing resources. We've quantified the expected outcomes. This is a super expensive problem. If we half-ass the solution, like Chad just said, this is going to get even more expensive, right? Well, now we need to go in and we can figure out what is their typical budget. Do they normally have a budget for problems like this? This is where you guys are asking for budget, but it's not what you're asking, it's how you're asking it that you get so much resistance, so much pushback. Now we're asking it in the flow, like Chad said, a flow of questions. Oh, wow. Okay. So yeah, this problem would typically, if this whole floor had to close down or whatever the quantifiable is, this thing can cost you upwards of $30,000-$40,000 a month. Well, do you guys typically have a budget for problems like this? Now that we've quantified it, now we can ask that question. And they either have budgets or they just react to stuff. And that tells you a ton. And then it opens up the question, do they want to be more proactive? So they end up spending less and they have less hassle, less time, less frustration. It opens up the opportunity for you to start to ask these questions. It's not so what's your budget to make sure I keep my number right at what you are capable of spending? No, guys, that's all they hear when you ask it. When you ask it this way, you're now coming through as a trusted advisor. I understand the cost now. That's the real cost. What's your budget to solve this? And then you can come through and ask these additional questions. Do you normally have a budget? If so, what does that typically look like? And then you can go on down through. Go ahead, Chad.
Nope. It's inquisitive for me. Inquisitive. So if I was to say, it's like, David, do you normally budget for stuff like this? Right? Like it's an inquisitive question. It's like, how do you budget for stuff like this? Do you just have a reactionary budget or you just kind of handle them as leaks come up? Right? He'll answer the question and he's instantly being put into two buckets, right? Reactive or proactive. And this goes so much deeper into the sales side, being able to find if they're reactive or proactive. But at the end of the day, we're trying to figure out what type of budget do they have? Because if they need to be able to request the budget, I've had so many opportunities where they're like, yeah, I'm looking at replacing the roof. My first question is, okay, have you gone through a budgeting process and have the funds approved? No, I still got to do that. I'm going to assume this guy isn't going to come up with $250,000 overnight, right? Okay, have you had to do this in the past? What's it like for your company? Because it's different everywhere. And as a trusted advisor, I want to help you get this approved, right? Me and my client, or me and my prospect, candidate, whatever you want to call them, we got the same goal. He wants the roof replaced. I want to be able to help him get the roof replaced, right? Get the right product. So again, I joke around all the time. Most facility managers say, I want a new roof so I don't have to deal with it for the rest of the time I'm here. Cool. Let's do it. Let's make it happen. But figuring out those keys, right? That's a massive, massive key. And I don't know why. I always get told that. They're like, let's put a new roof on it so I don't have to deal with it before I retire in 10 years. That's the goal. Give him what he wants. He doesn't want to talk to it. He doesn't want to see it for 10 years. Now you can start working toward what the real thing he's trying to achieve is, and just not the roof type, right? Just not a 60 mil TPO or wherever it is. So last one, gap in ability. Okay. This is where it really comes down. Do they have the internal resources to be able to solve this?
Chad, I've got a surprise. I've got a surprise for everybody. I got to go grab it. I'll be right back. You take everybody through this and I'll be right back. Okay.
I'm very concerned for everybody else on here. Sorry for whatever happens. All right. So we're talking about their gap, right? Now that they know the problem, the potential cost, why can't they just do it on their own? And this part, right? You could literally ask them this question. So why don't you guys just do this yourself? And I'll give you a real story. I'll make it quick. But the real story to this is it was a self-storage company. We were quoting preventative maintenance. And I asked this question, why don't you guys just do it yourself? And the answer I got was truly worth millions and millions of dollars for what we ended up. There was a manager climbed over it was on a step ladder. Manager climbed up trying to clean the gutters out on the step ladder. They had fell, broke their leg, and they sued the company. Now, this was a publicly traded company, and they won. And it created a entire company mandate that the managers were not able to go over 2 steps on a step ladder because she was on the third step, the top one. True, 100% true story. So anything, including changing a light bulb at that company, had to be done by an outside contractor. It was that simple, guys. Why don't you guys just do it on your own? Why don't you guys solve this on your own? Why don't you guys just make the repairs? You seem like you're handy. Is there something that's stopping you? He'll tell you instantly. Oh, no, no, no. I ain't getting up there. Yeah, they had me do it for a few years and I'm not doing that anymore. Just ask the question. Don't be afraid because it's all of the unknowns that ultimately result inside the deal dying, guys. Ask the question, right? Now, if you're replacing the whole roof, all that kind of different stuff, I get it. But do they really need to go outside of their current resources? That's the second part of this. You have a contractor, you've been using a contractor for 4 or 5 years. Can I just ask why you just don't go with him or why you're looking for other bids? The reason that I asked that question is because I'm trying to find out why they're looking for other people. Why are you taking 2 or 3 bids? And if the question or the answer I get is just, I need 3 bids for my corporate to award it, which let me tell you, I was absolutely on the front side of that, knowing that I was the primary contractor. I was the one that was getting the job, but that my client could not award the job to me until he got 2 more bids. That happened every day in my life because I was a trusted advisor for those corporations. Don't be that second or third bid, or if you are, find out. It's okay to have throwaway bids. It's okay to be able to say, you know what, I'll help you out on this one. I'll get you, but I want a real chance at the next one. I've been in those situations, but find them out, guys, because it sucks to think that you have a bid out there that is truly going to get awarded, that it was dead the day you met with the customer because they were only looking for bid number 2 or 3. Ask the questions, find out that gap. Why can't they do it themselves? Or why don't you just use the contractor you're using right now? Why are you looking for someone new? What went so wrong that you're looking to be able to change that resource? Trust me, they'll talk about it. If you ask questions about them, about their process or their experiences, they'll talk to you. And as soon as they talk to you, now you know what you don't need to do. Don't screw up the same way that that last contractor did when he showed up an hour late, or when he didn't do this, or he did do this, or he came and disrupted the tenant's whole world, right? Which created a lawsuit. They'll tell you all that stuff, but you got to ask the right questions. You got to find the ability, right? So it's just simple on a scale 1 to 10, right? What's your guys' ability to be able to solve this on your own? This is where you eliminate the maybes, right? It's a scale of 1 through 10. If it's an 8, 9, or 10, awesome, cool. I'm sorry, this is the opposite way, right? If their ability to be able to do is a 1, 2, or 3, their skill is very low. And that's why I went back to that confirmation close. If they answer no, probably like a 7 or an 8, well, why don't you do it yourself? Sounds like you guys have the ability to do this. You really don't need a contractor. They'll tell you on the backside if that's true or not. Ask the question because it's those brief instances of unknown that'll ultimately kill all of this. So each section, just like we said, and I've done it throughout this whole presentation, it should connect. What's the bigger problem that you guys aren't currently aware of, right? And if we were to solve this, right, are the outcomes enough that you guys are going to do something about it? How do you guys typically budget for something like this? Do you proactively do it or you kind of just handle it as it comes up? And then why don't you guys just do it yourself? It seems like you have most of the resources to just take care of it. Why are you hiring someone outside the business? Asking these questions is going to get you to the point to where you guys are going to be able to have a summary, right? The idea of all of this, we're not just doing this to be able to create a really pretty proposal. We're doing this to be able to help create clarity and confidence. Clarity and confidence. I'm going to say it because that's what your customer needs. He needs to be absolutely clear that he has a problem big enough that he needs to do something about it, and he does not have the resources to be able to do it himself, or his current contractor is not adequate. Because if his problem is not big enough, or his current contractor is fine, he's just trying to make sure that he's honest, That's a whole different sales game, guys. And you got to know what game you're playing. So, David, all you?
Yeah, we got a surprise real time, guys. You're going to see it right along with us. Go and drop share, Chad.
Okay, I'm out.
Work has gone into this. Very different. We're going to share it with you. Chad and I's first co-authored book,
What?
Commercial Territory Titans. First test run just came. Guys, it's like nothing you've ever seen before. Story time with David Bonney today. Check this thing out. It's like graphic comic style. The coolest thing I've ever seen. I might be partial to it, but look at this thing. Isn't it just beautiful? It talks about the sales reaper, the 5 fatalities, all the stuff we take you guys through. Just wanted to show you guys that. First ones to see it before we send it out to any of our clients or anybody else. Bam. Got
And
that.
how about you send it to me? I want in. Ooh, that backstick.
Ah,
All right, that is pretty sweet. That is pretty sweet.
yeah. So, and to the comment that just came in the chat, guys, whoever does the best out of all of the reps in our programs, in our next book, you will be a featured character in that graphic comic.
Look at that.
We'll do it. We'll figure. Right now, the sales rep looks like Ryan Reynolds. Maybe it could look like you.
We got the Ryan Reynolds. It's all good. It's all good. Awesome. All right, guys. I got 3 seconds left. Welcome to the new tomorrow. Yeah. Or the Sales Reaper or Territory Titan, wherever it is.
Right.
So, guys, thank you very much for joining us. David, thank you for sharing that. How you got it printed so fast is phenomenal, and we'll figure that out. But yeah, there's some cool stuff coming on, guys. So use this. The biggest part is you guys can sit here for 60 minutes with David and I. That's great. I love it. I appreciate it. But you guys now have to do the work. You guys have to ask the questions. You guys have to probe. And the only thing I'll tell you that I tell everybody, you're going to screw up. It's okay. Screw up. That's what you guys are going to do. That's how you're going to learn. Ask the questions, because it's going to be awkward the first time that you ask the questions. I'm telling you that because I know it firsthand. But the more you ask the questions and the more you see it help your customer create that clarity and confidence inside how they're making decisions, is the more that you know that those questions have to be asked. And that's when you start making that true transition, right, into that trusted advisor and being a better solution for your customer, which create accounts and allow you to be able to grow sales and not have to hunt every single day and grow your business. So hopefully this helped you guys. We'll see you next week. And yeah, go from there. Thank you, guys.